Quiet on set. Picture is up. All right, roll sound.
Rolling.
Roll cameras.
Cams rolling.
And 3, 2.
Hey everybody, what's going on? And welcome to Hank's Think Tank. I got Mark Hogan on my left.
Howdy, everybody.
Don't forget to introduce Mark.
Hurts his feelings.
Yeah, that's it. Hey, I got a great show here for you today. We're back to music, thank God. So we've been doing a couple of other things, and it's good to get back with a musician. It makes me feel at home. It makes me feel centered. It increases my foundation. It makes Mark, look at him, he glows.
I'm glowing.
It's because you introduced him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he may be pregnant.
Oh. Is it mine?
But anyway, good to be back in the studio again. This is our second show in the new facility, so we're still getting used to it. Still working out some bugs, so if you guys notice anything, let me know.
If you see any bugs, call us immediately.
Yeah, we'll have to get the place exterminated. But I have with me today, well, actually, Mark and I have with us today, Kerry Freeman and Patrick King. And these are both great musicians. And what we're going to do is we're going to do a little bit of an interview. And then after we do the interview, we're going to play a little bit of music. Now, I'm not going to, but Kerry Freeman's going to play, and we're going to listen to him. And I think this is going to be a great show. So stick around, check it out. And welcome, guys. How's it going?
Going good.
Oh, it's going great. Yeah.
Thanks for making the trip down here from Big Dallas.
Well, Fort Worth.
I love Fort Worth.
So it's only 4.6 hours instead of 4.8.
It actually
That's right.
said like 3 point whatever, and then we managed to turn it into 4 hours. I don't know
Yeah.
how, so.
If the Burger King stops. I
Well,
guess.
one of us, not me, has the bladder of a...
Of a 5-year-old.
Yeah, exactly.
Pretty much. Too many years of beer drinking, I think.
There you go. So how long have you been in the music business?
Oh, gosh. Like, seriously, I would say since 2000. 2000's when I had my first real band.
Yeah.
Like, where I actually was. I grew up playing music. My dad's a Baptist preacher, so as a lot of musicians that went to church as a kid, sang in church a lot. Started singing, when I was probably 4 or 5 years old. So, but, you know, and sang all during my childhood until, of course, I got to the age where it wasn't cool anymore, you know, to sing in church or to sing with my dad and family. And then kind of got away from it. And then in high school, started picking up the guitar playing because I couldn't play sports.
Yeah, that's where I was.
Exactly. So, yeah, and you know, I have a brother and 2 sisters that are all musical. My whole family's musical. And you know, we sang, like I said, growing up, but then I had my own real band, or what I thought was a real band. You know, I think that was probably 2000. So officially, I guess, probably 23 years, something like
Wow.
that.
It's amazing how that early childhood music sticks with you and becomes kind of part of your DNA. That it's sort of like the soundtrack of your kidhood, you know?
100%. Like, I mean, I say that all the time, especially in the interviews. People ask kind of the same question about when did you start? What were your influences? And that was a huge part of, you know, what I do. Probably more now, the older I get, I think that you're more, not that I'm not open to what I grew up in, but you just, I don't know, it's just different. You know what I mean? Like now I can look back and have a better understanding of what I was influenced by or how all that affected me. You know, when you're younger, you're more full of piss and vinegar and you want to change the world.
There you go.
You know,
Any formal musical training?
No, not really. I mean, I was in band in high school, you know, or from junior high to the end of high school. And I actually played guitar in stage band my senior year of high school. But we were such a small school that it wasn't like, I mean, it was just kind of not thrown together thing, but it was the first time they had done it really. So it wasn't like what you would think of as like a high school jazz band or stage band. It was me on guitar. We had a girl singer. Heck, I think the band director played bass. And we just, you know, but that's, you know, so I can read music. I had some formal training, but not on guitar or on doing what I do now.
Yeah. It seems like the best musicians are all self-taught.
I would think so. Yeah. You know, the ones I know. I mean, I know some brilliant musicians that actually went to school, you know, like Juilliard, MIT and stuff like that. But yeah, most musicians that I know that have really excelled are just self-taught.
Wow.
You know, and I think that's also the way that you tend to have your most, I don't want to say individual, but when you teach yourself, yeah, you emulate who your heroes are and what you kind of want to try to do. But when you're not following a book or a pattern of how you learn it, then you kind of develop your own style.
You gravitate
Right.
to what really turns you on those kind of things.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's
And
where tone and feel comes from.
100%. And of course, you know, I probably do have most of it wrong in the sense of technicality,
Yeah.
you know, but it is what it is.
Yeah, I
you know.
got
So you're up in the DFW area with your own band 20 years ago, and were you staying pretty busy? I mean, were you paying the bills?
Yeah, and so, you know, I've always had, because I got married fairly young, and I always had a 1 foot in music, 1 foot in, you know, having to provide for a family, but also wanting success in a career. You know, I don't want to say day job because that kind of shits on music. That's not, but a second job or whatever. You know, the bottom line is no matter what, you're never going to, when you're starting out, probably be able to pay the bills playing gigs. So I always tried to kind of balance that, and I was a father at a younger age. So, you know, I didn't want to completely ignore that responsibility. So, you know, like I said, kind of serving two masters. So, yeah, it was, you know, we played quite a bit, did a lot of all over Texas, West Texas, Dallas, Fort Worth. Now, I had a blues and R&B band. I started out 3-piece and kind of molded, added a B3 player and got a little bit more expanded what we were doing. But of course, anyone my age grew up influenced by Stevie Ray Vaughan. So that was like, of course, you know, all my friends wanted to be Stevie. I was massively into that. So it just comes with the territory of when you're my age and you play the guitar. So it was always kind of that.
Yeah, Stevie's got a feel that's hard to find.
And he didn't read music. He just saw what his brother was doing and tried to outdo him, basically.
Yeah.
And
it worked.
He was born with it.
Sure did.
It worked out well for him.
Yeah, very
Well, I always say this. I mean, you can have the best. You can have a Dumble amplifier and a $10,000 custom Strat, and somebody like Stevie or any really accomplished player could have a $300 guitar and a cheap amp, and they're going to sound like they sound because it's in the fingers. It's in the way they play.
Right.
Yeah.
So yes, equipment matters, but at the end of the day, true icons and people that are really good at their craft, it's in their hands.
Yeah, I agree.
Well,
Yeah.
Pete King, were you part of that early DFW band?
With Kerry, whenever we met years ago, we kind of had a similar interest in music, but different musical tastes. So I learned a lot by being out with Kerry and learning, you know, his styles of music, and then my styles. It wasn't really, say, his thing, but we got to hanging out more and more. And then, like at the time, the job that I had allowed me to go across Texas, and I was using a fairly large vehicle to do so. Which, if he had a gig somewhere, I would just throw his stuff in with the work vehicle, not tell the bosses, take off across Texas, and kind of roadie out for him for the most part.
That was handy.
It was great.
Worked out perfect, actually.
Yeah, it worked out really good. You know, cheap labor, easy way. And then there's times, you know, I'd crawl up on stage and sing with him, and we just had a blast.
Cool.
And he would literally crawl on stage.
Yeah, I'm only 5'6", so you know.
So drums only?
No, drum, a little bit of drums, a little bit of guitar, some this voice with vocals on occasion.
Cool.
And just whatever the job called for, and just kind of knock things out. It was a good time.
The more you can do, the more valuable you are.
Yeah.
Right.
We always called Patrick Schneider. Remember the?
Oh yeah.
With the tool bag.
Oh,
on
yeah.
With the giant set of
Yeah, that's
keys
it.
on
He had
the
the
Yes, what was
cigarettes
the
rolled up in
show?
his sleeve.
one day at a time.
Yeah, and
Was it
even
one day
before
at a time?
music,
Yeah.
like the job where I had actually met Patrick at a job. I got hired at a job where he was working.
Okay.
Yeah.
And we called him that in that job because he was that guy. He would drive. It was an institutional pharmacy, so we would fill prescriptions for nursing homes.
Okay.
So it was closed door.
Yeah.
But he would fill scripts, drive,
Whatever
weld,
the
literally Schneider.
Yeah.
And that's how it happened.
Unplug the toilet.
Crazy.
yeah, whatever the job called for. I'm just
Well, and other things too. But anyway.
oh hey now.
So, but then when I started playing more and, you know, doing a lot of West Texas stuff, and he would come on the road with us and help kind of bring equipment or just hang out or, whatever. Well, then it was like Schneider again. He was like, roadie.
One guy doing it all.
Yeah, exactly.
Just
Which
whatever
I
it
think,
takes.
honestly, probably led to where he's at now, which is one of the most sought after techs in the music industry. So
It's worked out well.
So it's all
That's
cool. Because of me.
Yeah.
yeah.
He
Thanks,
owes
Gary.
it
I appreciate
all
that.
to Kerry.
Yeah.
Just like you're divorced, you're
Yeah, that was another thing. We actually went through our divorce procedures about the same time too. So everything just kind of mirrored itself. Over
we're not a couple.
Yeah, we're not
It's
a couple.
starting to sound that way.
Sounds real weird.
I tell you what, it's great to have some kind of support during those times.
Oh yeah,
Oh.
Been there twice.
Trust
Yeah.
me.
Yeah.
It's tough.
Yeah, it's
Especially when
funny.
you got kids.
yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
My
but-
divorce actually wasn't so bad. It really wasn't.
Boo.
I just left with
Goodbye,
the clothes I had on, and that was it. I
well,
just-
that's good actually.
yeah,
that it-
because there was nothing to fight over. We didn't have any kids, and I just
Yeah,
gave
that
her
makes it
everything.
easy.
Said, "Here you go."
Yeah.
We didn't have anything to fight over either, but she kept inventing shit. We could fight over that. You can have
you
it.
said it.
Yeah.
I didn't. No, there's no doubt that when kids are involved, it's a totally different scenario. It doesn't
Oh, yeah.
mean that going through one isn't traumatic and doesn't hurt or doesn't have issues, but
Yeah.
when you got kids, it's just totally different.
It's rough business. Yeah.
Well, I read your bio, Kerry, and when you went through your divorce, I know it was tough, and that's very understandable. I've been there. Most people have. And you kind of hung up the music for a while, didn't you?
Well, no, not from that. So I got divorced in 2005. And so my brother, who I had played music with, up to a point couldn't stand to play music with him. We were like brother, fought. But anyway, he had married a Danish exchange student that I went to school with in high school, was exchange student in our high school, and they dated. Anyway, long story short, he married her, and he lived in Denmark. And so he started playing over there. Well, when I got divorced in 2005, he had the connection with the agent he used, and he had his own band, and he was like, now that you, and this isn't the shit on my ex-wife, or it's not that, but he was like, now that you kind of have more freedom, why don't you come start doing some gigs over here? And that's kind of what led me. So from 05, 06 till 13, I played primarily in Europe.
Really?
Yeah.
Badass.
I bet that was a lot of
Oh,
fun,
it
man.
was the best. I mean, I say this, and this does not knock what I do now or what I've done in the past or what I still do. Those were the best times I've ever had playing music, and I don't think they could be better. It's just a different appreciation.
And that's what I hear is that Europe just has a completely different
it is not in
idea
Oh,
of music.
big time.
Yeah, and I don't trust me. I love Texas and I love playing over here, but I don't want to diminish what fans are here or venues or people here. But it is so night and day different in the way that, first of all, they treat musicians and the way that the venues treat you, and just the people. They just are more passionate about it. And I don't know if that's a cultural thing, if it's I really don't know what it is, but it's night and day. I mean, I would play, so I could do 30 nights at a time. So I would tell my agent, I want to do February and I want to do November, because I had kids. I was divorced, but I
Right.
did have my kids, and I was a single dad. So it made it really easy for me to schedule around. And so I would do every night, 30 straight nights, and I'm talking, Monday, Tuesdays might be down nights, but
Yeah.
from Wednesday for sure, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, I mean, you couldn't even get in the door of bars that would hold 200 people. And like from the first song to the end, they're singing almost to where louder than you can hear yourself in the monitors.
Those days, were you in the same genre of country Americana, and they were receiving that really well?
Yeah, it was, and make no mistake, those were cover gigs, and we did, like I said, my brother had a band called the Road Scholars that we did some originals and, more of doing our thing. But a lot of the troubadour and duo stuff that we would do was covers. And it's weird because some artists that are huge in the United States, they've never even heard of. Like John Mellencamp, who I love, you do that, they'd like look at you like they'd never even heard of it. And I'm like, that's one of the biggest American artists ever, but like,
Right.
but then again,
some of it just never makes it over there.
I don't know why that is, but they love Bruce Springsteen, which to me are the kind of in the same vein. But it's always cool to see, 20-year-olds that want to hear Dolly Parton or want to hear, stuff that if you did that in the States, they would look at you like you had a hole in your head. Like, what is this crap?
Play Jolene, please.
So I always tell people, we would do I always say, anyone from Johnny Cash to Oasis. Like,
Yeah.
And, we did 200 songs. And
Wow. That's a big set.
Oh, well, we wouldn't do 200 a night, but my brother and I would have a repertoire.
Yeah, that's pretty big still. Yeah.
It was cool because, like I said, I grew up being a guitar player and doing three-piece and really guitar-driven music. But I think as a guitar player, I enjoyed doing those cover gigs more than when I was doing the other stuff, just because it is cool to be able to play guitar on Boys of Summer or Hotel California, and then on Johnny Cash. Like, it kind of expanded, and it was fun to be able to do that and like actually kind of get out of my own head a little bit, instead of just 3 hours of blues and R&B, to where people are probably like, he's going to play another solo.
Yeah.
Which when I was 25, I thought that's what they want to hear.
Yeah.
Little did I know.
Yeah,
Yeah,
see,
yeah, no kidding.
my folks were European. They were from Holland.
Okay. Yeah.
And they had told me that they believed that Europeans had a deeper affinity for music than Americans do.
So
they noticed that right when they got here.
It really is a
They're
thing.
like, wow, it's a big deal.
Yep.
So,
Yeah, and if you think about it, and again, I mean, make no mistake, rock and roll was invented here. A lot of music was invented here. But the way, if you take just like the Rolling Stones and Clapton, the Yardbirds, and those guys, it took them to appreciate American blues. You know what I mean? Because Americans we weren't appreciative of it.
Right.
It was like it took the Brits, getting really into that to kind of bring to the forefront what we
Right.
had, and it influenced what they did, which in turn influenced American artists, because of what the British invasion was doing. I mean,
And actually, it was a big social deal back then because of the social constraints that Americans had on blues music, because it originated in black communities.
exactly, and I
Yeah.
mean that was the time we lived in. It doesn't make it right, but the bottom line is
Yeah, but the Brits didn't have that same.
they didn't have the hang up.
Right. They
And that
didn't-
doesn't mean there's not
Yeah.
racism, and Europe's had its issues with that, as we all know. But
I just think it's interesting, though.
yeah, and I do think that played a role in it.
Yeah,
That-
it brought
that-
back the blues festivals of the 60s and John Lee Hooker and all those guys
Oh, yeah.
coming back. And these kids were like, yeah,
Exactly, and there was, and the truth is, like I said, there was no hang up over it. I mean, even Elvis
Yeah.
was crucified at first
Yeah.
because he shook his hips and was doing devil music.
Yeah.
And it's that like there's always been kind of that hang up over here that rock and roll is evil, and
Yeah.
heck, I mean, my dad is a Baptist preacher, but he was a rock and roller before he decided to go into the ministry. I mean, he was grew up in Odessa, was friends with Roy Orbison, and like was in the
Really?
scene back when it was
Wow.
being created.
Yeah.
So of course he has a little bit more open mind to that. And growing up in the church, my parents did not like force religion on me. From the time we were a certain age, they were like, it's your choice to go to church, but if you're not going to go to church, you're not going to go hang out with your friends, you're going to sit at home. But they gave it the choice to me. They weren't like, you have to go,
Right.
which I think was really important, because then it was like I got to make my own decision and see my own path. So I do think that some of the way that we're so ingrained with the religion over here, and that's not a bad thing, that rock and roll and music in general, I wouldn't say suffered, but it's always been a little bit of a
It
battle.
did, though. Yeah, it kind of did, though, I think.
I mean, I grew
Yeah.
up hearing the Eagles were satanic and that all this nonsense, if you play the...
The Eagles,
Oh, my God.
Linda
We
Ronstadt's
used to-
band.
Yes, we used to have, like, I remember watching videos, like PSA stuff about... all this evil devil music, that was not in church
Which is
and
funny
school.
compared to what
where
I
grew
listened
up.
to. It's funny.
Yeah.
And I could see that coming out of AC/DC or something. But
Well, yeah,
the
it's all
Eagles,
this,
Right,
like-
exactly.
No, I mean the
That
Eagles.
Hotel California is evil.
Oh, and like that. Supposedly, when the open cover and it's Anton LaVey up in the.
if you read it backwards, you fall over.
If you play anything backwards, it sounds satanic. It sounds.
Well, you had alluded to the fact that you and Mr. King here had a little opposite musical taste.
Oh,
let's
yeah,
say.
yeah.
Oh,
So what are
big-
you into?
Well, I grew up as a metal kid.
Awesome.
It started when I
There
was
you go.
younger with Kiss, of course, and then
Yeah.
grew into like in my teen years, Motley Crue and stuff like that. And then over the years, and there's a band out of where I come from, a little band called Pantera, who
Yeah.
were just blowing up and getting big and everything during that, when I was like 88, 89, somewhere in there. And lo and behold, I end up working for their drummer later with another
Really?
band. Yeah.
Cool.
And so, which is oddly enough, a band called Hell Yeah, which me and Kerry's dad get along great.
Yeah.
So it was always kind of weird, tongue in cheekish that he would. So how's the tour going? Who was it? Heck. I was like, oh yeah. He's like, yeah, that one.
Heck yes.
Yeah. But he was always super cool about it. And for him being a Baptist preacher, I always just thought that was just
Yeah.
tremendous that he could kind of step away from the norms of what they were all kind of preaching about and coming back to it and going, no, this is okay. He's a good person. I can like this, But it was always that I was more into the hard rock metal scene and
Sure.
But through our friendship, I kind of broadened my horizons, and it really opened my eyes to a lot more other music that maybe some of it I always consider say the Commodores, which I know he's a fan of.
Mm-hmm.
To me, that was always the music we heard in the back of the car when I was a kid. KVIL out of Dallas or something.
Yeah.
Riding around, and I was like, oh, that's my parents' music, But then I learned the other stuff and got the appreciation for it. It's kind of like if you're a first-time Zeppelin fan and all you hear is rock and roll, Black Dog, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then you find out about their bluesy country side stuff.
Right.
You're like, wait a minute, there's a whole other world worth of stuff out here that's incredible.
Right.
Right.
And that really kind of opened my eyes to a broader palette, bigger perspective, which was
Yeah.
fantastic.
Yeah, there's
Yeah, I
nothing
remember-
wrong with that. That just helps your musical abilities. you
Yeah,
know?
exactly.
Yeah, that's cool.
It's been great so far. We'll see what happens next.
So I wanted to ask you, since you play drums and guitar, what do you prefer? Do you have a preference?
No, it's
No?
just kind of whatever the gig calls for.
Which one do you think you're better at?
Air guitar, probably.
I could beat you in air guitar.
There you go.
Guaranteed.
When we were in high school, way back in the last centuries when they had dinosaurs and stuff,
Oh, yeah.
we would hang out, and this was the best air guitar player you ever
Outstanding.
saw.
Yeah,
And he
'cause-
was into Jeff Beck. He turned me on to Jeff Beck and
Nice.
Robin Trower, and we would sit there with
Yeah.
the black lights on,
Oh yeah.
and that's all I'll say about that.
I was gonna say nothing.
But-
oh, yeah.
I can hear a twist in this.
There's a twist.
He would do this air guitar stuff that would just blow me away.
Oh,
One
yeah.
time in Houston here, they had an air guitar contest. Don't be late. 8 o'clock at Rockies or whatever it was. And I said, dude, you got to go.
Seriously?
Because he would
That's
win.
awesome. Yeah,
I
'cause
would've won,
you
yeah.
felt that your fingers knew where to go with it and just
Yeah,
hold them
fingers-
up at the
yeah.
end.
He
Fingers
listened to
knew
the
where to-
same
yeah.
cut like 12 hours a day, so he
Oh,
had
yeah.
it down,
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
sure. But it was amazing, truly amazing.
Yeah.
That's
You ought to
great.
hear my guitar playing. It sucks.
Mine
See,
too.
I'm kind of with you right there as well because mine's just like, eh.
No, I was on the cover of Mediocre Guitar.
Nice. I like that one. I remember that one.
It does suck.
Rolling Stain.
Here we go.
But I've got a great affinity for music, and I listen to all kinds of music.
Yep.
So, and I used to really have a deep hatred for country music. Sorry, but I'm just
No,
going to be
no.
honest.
Yep.
And it took me to become a mature individual and realize that, country music really does have a great place in not only American society, but society as a whole.
Yep.
And there's a lot to be said about country music these days. I mean, you got guys like Vince Gill, amazing
Oh, yeah.
voice, amazing guitarist
Phenomenal
as well.
guitar player.
You
And
know?
Vince is one of my biggest heroes.
Yeah, I mean, he's how can
Oh,
you
yeah.
beat that?
And man, I'm especially, and talk about this on other interviews, that I really hate the term Texas country.
Mhm.
Like, I get really sick of that because it's
Makes
kind
you feel
of
like fighting.
well, it's a little. I don't know. I don't even go down that road.
I
But
got
Texas music is a thing. Texas has a really special, unique thing with their music,
And it's
down
very
here.
diverse.
Because it's so diverse. Like I always say, you got Willie Nelson, Stevie Ray Vaughan, Doug Somm, Texas Tornadoes, the Vaughan brothers. I mean, you have
ZZ Top
ZZ
even.
Top,
Yeah.
and then Rodney Crowell from Houston, a phenomenal songwriter, country singer, the Gatlins. I mean, there's and all of the West Texas stuff with Buddy Holly, of course, Roy Orbison, and the stuff coming out of Lubbock. So it's like we should celebrate Texas music more than Texas country, or you know what I mean, like, because it's a uniqueness. It doesn't happen in other places. You don't go to Ohio, no knock on Ohio, and see fans of Willie Nelson at the same show that are the fans of Pantera.
Right.
And you'll see that in Texas.
That's true.
And it's such a unique thing, and I think that we should nurture that, with the younger artists coming up. I think so much now, there's so much negativity towards Nashville because look, there's always been shit come out of Nashville because they're always going to make, dribble to that the masses want, that's not knocking those musicians, but it makes money sometimes.
Yeah,
so there's
they've
always
got a
been that
preconceived formula that they're trying to bandwagon something
because
to
it
death
makes
a lot of
money.
times.
That's why Waylon and the outlaw movement happened, because Nashville was doing that crap.
Yeah.
Hell, even the icons back in the, what they would say, glory days of Nashville, there was some real slick strings and, you know what I mean?
Sure,
like a long time ago. So
Yeah.
I'm very, to me, pigeonholed, say, country music or blues or rock or whatever. Yes, there are genres and there is certain things in those molds. But man, to me, the Eagles are more country than most country artists.
When I was coming up, I would consider them country. Leonard Skinner was high-powered country.
Southern rock.
Oh my gosh, yes. If you listen to that stuff now and compare it.
Oh yeah, Leonard Skinner is real close to country.
The truth is, if you listen to like the first, and I'm not going to say Guns N' Roses, but when you listen to just take Sweet Child of Mine and actually listen to that track, it is so not produced. There's hardly anything on it.
Right.
You know what I mean? And like now you listen to some country music to where it's 3 guitars, overly distorted, and all that. You know what? It's so it's like
Just layers upon layers.
it's layers
of
upon
shit.
layers. So
Right.
it's
I said that,
easy
by the
to
way.
get out of. No, it's the truth. It's easy to get out of the. Because a lot of people will hear country and they're like, "Oh, I don't like country."
Yeah.
It's like, well, listen to it first.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My problem these days is the demise of the artist.
Yeah.
Because now you have electronic music. I can go in the control room and I can put together a tune without a single damn instrument.
And you can sing
And
and,
it's
have an
perfect.
auto-tuner. And
Yeah,
make
you can
sound-
auto-tune your vocals, which I would have to do. I don't know if auto-tune would work with my vocals. You got to at least get close to key.
And man, it's like,
But there's a lot of people in the music business now that have made it that should have never made it.
Oh, absolutely.
I agree.
because they're not musicians, they're not artists, they're computer guys.
They
What
know
the
how to
hell?
push buttons.
and it's I always tend to not want to, dog cuss some of that, because whatever someone does, they do, and if they succeed at it, then there's something to celebrate a little bit. But it's frustrating because when I was growing up, you got a band together, you sucked.
Right.
But
You had
then
to
you
go
started
through that.
getting gigs, and
Yeah.
you learned how. I remember my first gig. I couldn't look at the crowd. I would stare at my feet. You learn how to talk to the crowd. You learn how to interact with the band. You learn to become a band by going out and playing shitty gigs and getting
Right.
your ass
And
kicked.
learning from it. Yeah.
And learning from it. Going, I'm never going to do that
Yeah.
again,
And
or
you learn that
whatever.
you're a part of the
and
music.
then you might join a different band or get hired in a better band or whatever, and it became a thing. And that's how you got signed at some point.
Right.
You play in the circuit of doing cover gigs or whatever. Now it's like with a computer, a kid or whoever can make a record that sounds really, really good in the sense of the production.
Absolutely perfect.
And never
Right.
leave a bedroom.
Right.
They can then put it on YouTube and go viral or whatever and have all these followers, and they've never played a gig.
Yeah.
But now, it frustrates me because, I've been a professional musician for a long time, and it's not like, oh, I'm good enough, I don't have to do that. But when people are like, well, all they care about is what is your social media numbers, what is your... It's
Right.
like, that doesn't mean you can go stand in front of a crowd and entertain them or
Right.
even play the damn gig. And I know that's not all of what goes on, but there's a big part of it. Like,
Well, that's the money making part because you're
Yes.
not making money selling albums anymore.
No,
that
It's
that
clicks
part
and
of the-
likes and
that
shares
part
and
of the business-
downloads.
Yeah, that part of the business has changed. If you want to make some money, you got to get out and play in front of people.
Yep.
How are
And
you going
sell
to do that
merch.
if you created it? If you created it on a laptop,
exactly.
You know?
And
you might be
again,
able
like,
to get out there and sing, but
the technology is really cool because, heck, even when I was growing up, you could buy a 4-track, a Tascam.
Tascam,
on the tape.
424.
Sounded like total dog shit.
yeah,
But now, I mean, with technology, you really can do some really good stuff, which is good, but it's kind of not in a way because you're not having to learn. And I know there's a talent to being able to sit at the computer and do something, but it just, to me, it's got to be played. It's got to be an
to
instrument.
me, that's cheating.
Kind of is.
Well, it is cheating.
Yeah.
You know, and the thing about it is how are you ever going to get to soul? Because when you play music, it's an extension of you, your inner part that you can't
translate
articulate any other way.
If you play it right.
It's
Right.
It's a feeling, an emotion that comes
feel,
out.
you can't get to soul, you can't get to feel, you can't get to emotion. There's a lot of stuff you can't get to by stroking keys. You can only get to it through the effort and the sweat and the practice it takes to learn an instrument or to learn to exercise your vocals and use them in the right way.
Yep.
You're not going to do it any other way, you know.
No,
and so
it really
it is cheating. I mean, it really is.
And when they've pinned it down to where it's become like a perfected product, when you think back to all the great music that existed that was recorded on reel to reel, and you listen to all the little nuances and the little mistakes that were made, those little mistakes were what you loved every time you put the needle on
They
that
brought
record.
the humanness to you.
Yeah.
That was the reality of it,
Yeah.
that's what made it real. And that doesn't happen anymore with all this digital horseshit.
It's too homogenized is the nice way of putting
I
it.
like that.
And the thing is, if you listen like auto-tune, of course you could sing something, put it in, literally we call it putting it through the meat grinder to where you just put it in, go make coffee and it comes out. You can tell that, and there's a lot of artists, big artists that do that. If you actually watch when they can tune, what they call tuning a vocal, nobody sings in perfect pitch unless you're a Disney freaking singer. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Some of that is what makes someone's voice sound good. That doesn't mean singing completely out of key or whatever, but you understand what I mean, like the inflections and stuff. When you just run it through a meat grinder, you're taking all that out. You're taking the soul out, you're taking the feel out, you're taking the emotion out of it, and it just becomes, why not just put it in a computer and shit it out?
Right.
It's like you lay your stuff down and then they run it through the AI machine.
That's you say that about AI, and for some reason in the last month, that's just been like on everybody's mind, or I've heard a lot about it. Well, now they have AI bots or whatever AI is that can go past the LSAT and bar, you know what I mean, and write college term papers.
So you're saying there's hope?
Yeah, exactly.
You could still be that lawyer you wanted to be.
Exactly.
That'd be terrible.
But I mean, heck, I see ads pop up on Facebook like, finish your song where basically your AI is writing songs for people. And I mean,
we're not far from that at all.
It's probably already happening. And
I
we don't
believe
know
it is.
about
Yeah.
it because, and to me, that is just. What if some brilliant song is written by an AI bot and you're like, wow, shit, what does that say about song? But
see,
no, it really is.
But that's my point, though. I mean, since the introduction of all this technology, have we really created a lot better music?
Nope.
No, we really haven't. It's
Well,
you know.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Well, what I was going to say is what I think it's also done is what came out in the past, 60s, 70s, 80s, whatever, wouldn't even be allowed to be brilliant artists
That's for
because
sure.
it's not formulated or it's not, you know what I mean? It's like stuff that when you listen to it now, you're like, man, how did they let them make that record?
There's an exception to this, though, and he's dead now, but Prince.
Well, exactly.
Prince was actually the exception to the rule. He knew how to take technology and actually use it in a creative way, not in a way to manipulate and get past something, but he needed it because he didn't have a band.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was all him.
Yeah, crazy.
And the fact that he was just a brilliant musician.
He was a great guitar player, and a lot of people passed Prince right over.
Oh,
he could jam.
Yeah,
He's
he was
fantastic.
I figure he's just a little pop raspberry beret guy.
No.
But man, if you ever saw that guy, he could just burn up a solo. You know,
Well, go YouTube the clip of him doing
George Harrison's tribute. Yeah,
While my
guitar
guitar gently weeps. Yeah,
That was incredible.
That'll knock the socks off your head. I mean, if they were on your head, they'd be gone.
He does an acoustic version of Cream too. That's amazing.
Is that right?
Yeah, I've heard that.
Yeah.
It's great.
He was brilliant.
Is that the one where he was talking to the crowd and he was like, hey, shut up?
Yeah, it was really good.
And doesn't it make you wonder, like, so the 12-year-old Prince somewhere now, will all of that even come out? Because instead of woodshedding and learning those instruments because he didn't have a choice. Now it's like a shortcut.
Create them on a keyboard.
So maybe somebody who has that level of talent, it doesn't get cultivated because they can now just take the easy way and not even know they're taking the easy way. It's just normal now to do
Right.
it on a computer, GarageBand on your phone or whatever.
It's crazy.
I always
Well,
say,
they're going to have the mindset as an artist to go back and actually look for that soul and see where it came from and actually be influenced by it enough to go, wait, there's something more here than just this digital horseshit. Let
the
me go back
ones
and
that
look
I
at
think
this.
that really have a heart and a soul for it. You
Yes,
know what I
of
mean?
course. Yeah,
But
the true musicians.
And that's a
No, I'll say it. I don't
no,
give a damn
but
who
I
I
know,
piss
but it's
off.
like, well, he's not a real musician. But I do think that so many kids, and I say this because I have 2 older kids that are in their early 20s, so I know kind of the mindset.
Yeah, of course.
And it's not saying anything about them or their friends or whoever, but you do see our society now rewards notoriety at any cost.
Yes.
That's right.
Yes.
So it doesn't matter if you're famous for Purple Rain. It matters if you're famous for lighting a fart and driving a nail
Right.
through your balls.
Right.
Yeah,
You know what
and
I
it
mean?
goes
Yeah.
viral, and everybody knows
Exactly.
who you are.
So it's like, man, I just want to get famous. Well, what are you going to do? I don't know. I just want to be
Well,
famous.
it makes you wonder if you had like somebody like, let's say on the rock side, like an Eddie Van Halen that came up today, and he was Eddie. You know what I mean? So, but nobody had ever heard it before. Would he just be like looked over because he's like, whatever,
Probably.
and then go back to the kid lighting farts?
Yeah, it's really
Yeah,
hard.
yeah,
It's really
exactly.
hard these days because there's so many millions of people that have the barriers to access have been dropped.
Right.
The
So, I mean,
gatekeepers are gone.
Yeah, because of the internet, anybody can get in the game now,
Yeah.
and it's easy. It's simple. It doesn't cost anything.
Yep.
So you've got a sea of musicians. You've got a sea of people trying to get famous, and to poke your head up above that enough,
Yeah.
tough, man. Tough.
Very tough.
Yeah, it's like, in a way, it cultivates, well, how do I stand out? Well, do something stupid. Or, you know
Right.
what I mean? Like, what's
Right.
going to make you stand out?
Sorry, I
Well,
just had a mental image of you playing
Naked.
and lighting your farts at the same time.
if I could do that, maybe I would. But no, it really,
We'll pay extra for that.
I bet.
Yeah, you're gonna have to
Patrick
work
has.
on that one.
That'll
that's
be
a
a
whole other
first
story.
on Hank's Think
It
Tank.
sure would.
So, yeah, it is, it's
Hank's Think Tank.
Groundbreaking artist.
it's disconcerting because, like I said,
That's great. That's-
we'll apologize to my wife and my, yeah. I'm glad it's not live. They've
New
been
things are coming down the pipe, baby.
maybe watching
No
the
pun
Denmark
intended.
going, what is this guy doing?
Yeah.
But there's no like guitar heroes anymore.
Yeah,
Our
right.
generation,
Right.
you grew up. I mean, I graduated with 55 people, so my high school had 300.
That's a big
It's
school.
huge. But I mean, in a that size of high school, there was 5, 10, 50. You know, people that wanted to be musicians or,
Sure.
or garage bands or
Yeah.
played noodled on whatever.
Right.
There's no kids doing that.
Oh, it was a big deal when me and
Girls
Mark were
do
growing
it.
up.
I think that's one thing that's kind of cool. Is it seems like that girls are taking over
Oh, yeah.
the wanting to be musicians, to play
Right.
guitar and drums, and you
Yeah.
see that so much now. Like her or not, I think Taylor Swift has a huge role in that. That for 20 years now, or 15, girls like my daughter's 23, and she grew up listening to her,
Right.
and there wasn't girls playing guitar when I was in high school. Heart.
Yeah.
But there
Yeah.
wasn't a whole lot. So I do
Gosh,
think
she
that
could
that's a
jam,
good
couldn't she?
thing.
Yeah.
But it's kind of like, why aren't young men growing up when they can't play basketball or football or they're, can't deal with society, they then go in your room and play guitar 8 hours a day. You
Yeah,
know?
yeah.
Too much competition now.
Well, there's
man.
not a lot of
you've
young
got-
guitar heroes that
That's
they
what I
look
mean.
up to.
Yeah,
and
like who's the last real?
Top 40 radio, where'd that go?
I'd say
you know?
Eddie was the last real guy that was out.
Yeah.
And he's
Well,
gone
and-
now. And
Yeah,
know?
because people always think of. They don't realize that Van Halen was actually a '70s band. People always
Yeah.
think of 1984, literally,
Right.
and then later on with Sammy, but it all still came out of the '70s.
Yeah.
And Eddie did what he did, and I can't, but because I think it was just so in him to just be so different. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? That's what I mean by learning it. Literally how to read music and all that, and then you do it perfectly how you're supposed to, but you're never going to be forced to go outside of that and be somebody. How would you
Right.
ever be somebody like Eddie Van Halen on sheet music?
Yeah.
You know what I
right.
mean? Like
Yeah, he sat on his
invented-
bed every day.
Exactly.
And just,
And it's
Probably by
like,
mistake,
out.
just hit something and went, oh, that sounds cool.
Yeah.
exactly. And it's like,
Yeah.
you just
Finger
learn
tapping.
to.
Yeah,
Hey, wait a minute.
yeah, exactly.
I'm
Yeah.
going to do that
Grab
shit
it
on
this way, grab
purpose.
that way.
Yeah.
Ba-ding.
It's like one of my guitar player buddies always said, good thing about blues is if you hit the wrong note, just bend it.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, you bend it till it
You'll
works.
get to it eventually.
Yeah.
That's right.
So you've got a new album out.
Yes, sir.
It's Texas.
It's Texas, which
Yeah.
is really funny to me because, again, like the last, if you ask Patrick this and anyone that knows me, the last thing I ever thought I would do is release an album called It's Texas. Not that I'm not proud of being a Texan and I love
Right.
Texas like we talked about, but it's like so much is, oh, Texas. You know what I mean? Like that it becomes like a
Right.
cliche almost.
Yeah, like a
big
little-
truck and
A selling point. Or
beer
something.
on the back
Or for people
roads
from
and-
other states, oh, it's Texas.
Yeah, and it's
yeah,
kind of, and it doesn't take away because we have not just a special music scene, but Texas is kind of special in its own way. That there is a difference in the way some things.
It's not an arrogance. It's more of a just a prideful thing that you're kind of raised with when you come from here.
And we do have a lot to be proud of.
Yeah,
right?
And we do,
and
there's
we're not
nothing
trying to
wrong
be.
with that.
We're not really. I mean, sorry to the people of Colorado. We're not trying to be assholes. We're really not. We just are very proud of the fact that we come from Texas. That's
Yeah.
it.
Nothing wrong with that at all.
And there's so many,
Yeah.
great musicians talking about emulating people, like Stevie Ray and people that came up like that. There's a rich history here, and we're not trying to say that we're better than anybody. We're just proud of the fact that we come from this place where all these great things exist.
Mm-hmm.
I know there's negatives everywhere, but the people that truly give a shit about this state aren't concerned with all the crazy shit. We want to fix some things. We want to get it right. But we're so proud of the fact that we come from this land that's created all these amazing people.
Yeah, it's a musical legacy.
Yeah, there is some
Stay.
sort of glue in the ether, I think, in Texas that just helps to create an individual sound because that's really what Texas has. Doesn't matter what the genre is.
Right.
We just have an individual sound here
Yeah.
that I think you probably wouldn't get anywhere else. And I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's the water. I don't know if there's just something
dirt.
in the air, the dirt. Yeah.
No, but
the
it's-
beer,
it's-
the pollen. Yeah, it's something.
There is definitely something, and there are places in the world, in America, that are you have a uniqueness in their music. I mean, take Liverpool and Manchester and that area
yeah.
of Northern England. I mean,
Yeah.
you got the Beatles, you got Oasis, you got Stone, all these great bands that came out of there. And in West Texas, Lubbock, Odessa, the stuff that came out of West Texas. If you really start digging into it, I think what the kind of overall theme, and let's just take West Texas or Northern England, I think where it comes out of is not poverty, but it is a different type of growing up. You know, you always
Right.
hear, like
Yeah.
Roy Orbison would talk about it, my dad, and like even Buddy Holly. I mean, in West Texas back in those days, I mean, it was a very, people didn't have a lot of money.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? So it was, when it comes a little bit out of, I don't want to
It's
say
working.
poverty.
It's working
It's
hard,
working
check to check
class, and
life.
it's like
Right.
that
Yeah.
kind of struggle, art comes out
and
of
that's
that.
what it is.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
struggle. Yeah,
And so,
it's learning
yeah.
to be tough.
Overcoming all
Yeah.
that gives you character.
It does.
Yeah.
And I mean, like, art is, when we struggle, that's what lends to good art. And whether it be paintings or whether it be music or writing or whatever. So I think if, like I was saying, if you really start looking at that, that's probably kind of the underlying common denominator. It doesn't mean that affluent, well-off people can't make great art. But
Right.
I'm sorry, it's not going to be the same,
No.
Yeah,
when
I
you're
agree.
struggling to eat every day and the pain that comes out of that kind of
That's where blues music was born.
well, an
man.
oppression
In
of
the
slavery
fields,
and
yeah.
Yeah,
yes,
Yeah, the cotton
absolutely.
fields,
You're living it.
Yeah.
Whereas if you're rich or you literally are that affluent, can you really sing with the same pain of what you could if you grew up in the cotton field?
No.
Right.
It's just, and that's not a judgment of affluent or not affluent,
just
black,
the
white,
way it
whatever.
is.
It's just the way it is.
Yeah, sorry, people that are out there that are rich and trying to do this, but you're no Robert Johnson. That's just the way it is.
Well, no, and I always say that even bands that have made it or big. There's not a bigger Eagles fan in the planet than me. I mean, I love them, but they don't. What they wrote when they were in their 20s, they're not going to write when they're in their 50s and they're millionaires.
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
it's just different. You're just a different place in your life.
Yeah.
You know, that's just the way it is. I mean, the well runs dry for everybody. And again, most of the time, influence comes from, or art comes from pain, or comes from experience. And your experiences when you finally made it are just different. And it doesn't mean that you can't do something good, but I just think it's going to be, I don't know, it's just different.
Yeah, I agree.
So
the album, are these your own songs?
yes, so it's one cover song.
Okay.
Which one is the cover song?
Good Day for the Blues. You remember the band Storyville? Yeah. So one of my favorite bands. David Grissom wrote it, a brilliant guitar player out of Austin. And I'd done that song from the first gig I think I ever played till, I've done it forever.
Okay.
In all my shows, you know, and so it was always a really special song to me. I'd sing it at my best friend's funeral. It's just one of those songs. And I didn't go into the studio intending to do it, but we just kind of came naturally. A lot of the stuff on this record, heck, I never intended to do a record. We went to Nashville to do 2 songs. So the producer on my record, Kevin Montgomery, his dad was Bob Montgomery from Lubbock.
Wow. Okay.
Who was Buddy Holly. So Buddy Holly,
Yeah.
Buddy and Bob had a duo. Before Buddy became Buddy and the Crickets, they in high school had Buddy and Bob.
Mm-hmm.
And they wanted to be like the next Flatt and Scruggs. They wanted to be like country or bluegrass kind of. And so he wrote Wishing, Flower of My Heart, some of those Buddy Holly songs he co-wrote with Buddy or wrote them. And so I guess, I don't know when they split, but Buddy ended up doing his thing. Bob ended up moving to Nashville. And then, of course, Buddy died in the plane. And Bob, you know, his career took off he was a big producer. You know, he owned House of Gold Publishing. I mean, just a massive Nashville mogul, so to speak. So wrote songs for Patsy Cline.
Okay.
And so Kevin, his son, who is a brilliant singer-songwriter himself, he and I became friends. I don't even remember how we met, but he kind of, during the pandemic, was doing live broadcasts, and he would have guests on. And so in doing that, he had a couple of his old dad's like colleagues, and he came up with the idea. It was like, hey, before these guys basically get old and pass away, we should go do maybe a couple of songs with them, kind of for just being able to do it before that history's gone. You know,
Right.
he wanted
Smart.
to do it for his dad. His dad passed away like 6-7 years ago, but you know, kind of
Oh, yeah, I can
preserve
dig
that.
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Great idea.
And so in doing that, we went and we did a song my dad wrote, which is on the record, called Last in Line, and then a song called I'm a Kid in Trouble, which was written by Craig Martin, who wrote Don't Take the Girl for Tim McGraw. Well,
Okay.
Craig and Kevin who were friends, and he had played that song for Kevin. I don't remember exactly how it went down, but Craig passed away like a few weeks after he played it for Kevin. And Kevin was like, you should record that song. He wanted me to do it, but you should do it. So we went with the intention of doing 2 songs just to have it. Well, it ended up being such a good experience. I was like, well, shit, let's do a record. Yeah.
Cool.
My wife was like, great.
Yeah.
Yeah, fantastic. You're gone how long?
Yeah. So, and look, I consider myself extremely lucky because to be able to have the access to that kind of history of Nashville and those musicians and Kevin's contacts, and because of who he is and records he had made, I had access to some phenomenal musicians that now I consider friends, but that wouldn't have happened without him. And not only did he,
Awesome. Yeah.
so it really, I mean, I'm humble and grateful beyond belief.
It's great.
So that's how that came about. And so we went there kind of not intending to do a record, and the record came out of it, which I think
happens a lot.
that's the best. To me, it's like, it seems like everything that happened, and I hate to, I don't want to say fate but things just happened that shouldn't have happened, like just in a good way. You know what I mean? Like it
Sure.
just came together in a way of like, this is more than just
And
for
those
no
are the best
reason.
ones. That's the way it needs to be done, really.
Absolutely. And again, like I said, I did a live album like 20 years ago, but I'd never really recorded and kind of never wanted to. Like, I don't know. I always enjoyed playing live, and I just didn't. Probably because
Right.
my proficiency level was I didn't have the patience for going to the studio and banging it out.
Yeah.
So it really changed. I told my wife this. It changed my life whether one person buys that record or a million it changed my life. It will never be the same because of that experience and
Well,
those guys.
from what I've read, it's doing quite well.
Yeah, I mean, I think so. It's I'm very proud of it. I think that it's a great record in the sense of what the vision. And again, we didn't have necessarily a vision for each song. I had great musicians on it, and it happened organically in the studio. That's why I wanted guys that I respected the way they played and what they played, and we let them do what they did.
Cool.
So I mean, we cut.
So you hired session musicians?
Yeah. So
Yeah, great ones.
Yeah, great ones.
Awesome.
So John McTee played drums. He played with Emmylou Harris,
Okay.
Rodney Crowell.
So you weren't invited on this whole thing.
He
were you?
was
No,
there
I,
one
I
time.
went one time just to ride along, just for the hell of it,
the death
hang out in the
wobble.
studio. Yeah, we learned what the death wobble was
Yeah.
in a Ford F-250.
Which,
That was I
I want to
every
plug the
tire goes
studio.
weird.
So which studio were you at?
Excuse me. It's Sundog Studio in
Okay.
East Nashville.
Sundog
And
Studio.
Sundog Studio.
Okay.
Brilliant studio. It's really cool. Mike Esser runs it. He used to engineer for Danny White at 16 Tons on
Okay.
Music Row. And Kevin had done a couple of albums, and that's how he knew Mike. And so, yeah, John McTee played drums, played with Emmylou, Mavericks, or no Mavericks, but Raw. And then Bob Britt. And I always say Bob was a little more special because he played all the guitar, but he also was. I always say Bob's kind of the guy, the straw that stirred the drink, more
Okay.
than just playing the guitar. He kind of added just a different level of involvement on it. So he played all the guitar. He was with Delbert for 10 years, and I think Delbert's last record that won the Grammy, Bob produced and wrote most of the songs. So he had a Grammy for that, like 2018.
Cool.
Then Dave Rowe, who played with Johnny Cash, Dwight Yoakam, he played bass. Bruce Boughton played steel, who played with Garth forever. Ricky Skaggs. So on Highway 40 Blues, that's Bruce Boughton.
Yeah. Okay.
So I mean, just the best of the best.
Wow.
And, it was humbling. It was scary.
I bet it was.
First day I was in the booth, and Al Perkins had played steel on 2 songs, and Al Perkins played with the Eagles, played with the Rolling Stones. I'm in the booth going, what in the hell am I doing? I do not belong here. But
So how many songs did y'all cut? 11?
we did 9 songs, so
9
8
songs?
originals.
Okay.
I co-wrote 2 of them. My cousin, who plays in my band as well, he wrote for Kevin, the producer, 2 of his songs, and I think and then the one that Craig wrote.
How long did you stay in the studio?
We actually, it took 9 months, but we were only in there 2.5 weeks. So Kevin lives in London.
That's pretty quick.
Yeah.
You had a good engineer, I guess.
Good engineer. Well,
Yeah.
Mike's brilliant.
Yeah.
And so it was a scheduling thing. So we did like 2 or 3 days in October of 21, a week in January of 22, and then a week and finished it a week in April of last year at the end of April.
Same musicians.
Same musicians.
Wow,
And-
that had to be tough.
Yeah,
Get
and
all
Bob
them guys
Britt is
back
touring
together.
with
Yeah.
Bob Dylan now. He's playing guitar with Dylan. Well, we're having to schedule around Bob Dylan. I know that sucks, but
Well, it's funny you mentioned that because Bob Dylan called me the other day, and I said, "Dude, we're just doing Texas music."
Yeah, that's it.
yeah,
Thanks anyway.
Yeah, real
Sorry.
busy.
believe it or not, I think Bob Dylan is
Talk to
80.
you later.
Yeah, it's like Bob-
I
I think he does that shit on purpose.
do too.
He
That
does-
can't be natural.
No. He does it. It's a put on. He does it just to be weird,
a
which is
shtick.
kind of cool in a
Works,
way. It's
work
shtick.
for him.
Just
dude.
telling the guys next to him, like, hey, watch this.
I mean, he's 83 or 84, and they just
Is he really?
Oh yeah, and they
Damn.
just went to. They're in Tokyo right now. I mean, they toured their asses off last year. I'm like,
83.
God,
God, that makes me feel old.
Yeah, exactly.
It's
And
either that or it makes us look cool as fuck. I don't
Yeah.
know. The two, I don't know.
I'll take the cool.
Yeah, I'll go with that too.
So yeah, it was a brilliant experience, and of course I'm lucky as can be. And the songs are what they are, and the guys, I think they enjoyed it because too many times in Nashville it's like, and those guys play on big sessions. They play with everybody. It's like, here's the chart, this is what we want, and I think Kevin, as his role as producer, was very good about letting it happen organically.
Cool.
To where it's like, no, these guys are brilliant. Let them do what makes them brilliant.
Right.
Yeah.
And I don't give a shit about a formula. I believe music needs space. And if you listen to my record, there is space. Just because you have a badass guitar player or a badass fiddle player, that doesn't mean just put a bunch of fucking guitar in.
Because you have to be able to digest it.
Yes.
That's what it is.
Ultimately,
People don't understand that
No,
these days.
and
they
it's
just
the space-
load it up.
Yeah,
Yes.
You know? Yeah.
it's the space between that matters.
That's right.
And ultimately, it's all about the song. It really is.
Yeah.
And everything else is to support the song, and it's to support the lyrics and the singing, which I don't think I'm a great singer, but but that's still what you're there for. And so those guys had that sensibility, and that's what I think made it so good in that sense. It's up to you or whoever listens to it to decide if it's good or not.
Right.
That's just the way it is, and I'm okay with that. But I'm proud of the fact that it is how I think music should be made, in the spirit of what I grew up listening to and my influences.
That's
a good word.
Yeah.
I like
But
it.
does that make sense? Like
Yeah.
I think
100%.
it came out. I think we hit the nail on the head on that thing.
Okay. So
Man,
I'm
I
a
felt so
music
bad.
listener. Where do I go to get this album?
All over Spotify, Apple Music. It will be on vinyl. I'm still waiting.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that'll be up on my website, my merch site. So on my website, Kerry-Freeman.com you can find the links on there. You'll be able to order vinyl on there on the
Okay.
merch site. The merch site should be up this week with all the new merch. But of course, it's on Spotify and Amazon, every streaming service.
Cool.
And you can actually buy it on Apple.
You hear that, guys? You can buy it. That's
You can
what we
buy
need
it,
to do.
yeah.
Because we got to support these artists one way or another. So, yeah, that's the way to do it.
And I truly appreciate it. And I appreciate you guys having us because it all matters,
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
So what are we going to hear today? Is it going to be off your album, It's Texas?
Yes,
A few-
sir.
couple of cuts off of that?
Yeah, I'll do a couple of cuts. So the first single was Funny How That Works, and it's now in recurrent. So it's been out 6 months. So it topped at 28 on the Texas Internet Radio chart. And I guess there's a point where it becomes recurrent. So it's going to be time. I haven't decided yet what the next single's going to be, which I have to decide pretty soon.
Mm-hmm.
But I have a couple ideas. I know that there's three more songs that I really think should be singles. So I'll do a couple of those.
Cool.
I'm voting for one of them.
Just one of them?
What happened to?
What happened in Houston?
Yeah, what happened
Oh,
in
there you
Houston?
go.
Talk about a throwback. That sounds like some Dwight
Well,
doesn't
Yoakam
it?
or something.
I
man.
love that song. So Kevin, my producer, had written that with Kelly Jones, and then it was a little slower. And it was. I grew up. My granddad on my mom's side was a Western swing fiddle player.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, fiddle is literally ingrained in my DNA. And so Kevin was like, "You should do What Happened in Houston." I said, "I would love to do it. We need to rewrite some of the verse." And shut up, Kevin. You know it. But anyway, I was like, let's get twin fiddles and make it a swingy,
Cool.
cut how it is.
It's got pedal
steel,
too,
yeah.
right?
Bruce Boughton played a brilliant pedal steel. So I was like, that is what I grew up listening to, going and two-step into that. And so Kevin and I rewrote some of it and went and did it in the studio and like had Billy Contreras play fiddle, who now plays with Ricky Skaggs. It's like, these guys, I want them to play with me. I'm like, I got to get in line with Bob Dylan. It's like, yeah, come play with me when you're not doing icons.
You're rubbing elbows with the right people, let's say that.
But Billy is just, when you play fiddle like that, it's almost like you're just an alien. But I thought he did a brilliant job. I love that song. I mean, I really do. It's one of my favorites.
That stood out to me. Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't think we're going to it's going to be released as a single, and I'll tell you off the air what might happen on that. But so yeah, I'll do that one.
Cool.
Yeah, but I appreciate that you like it because I love it. Everybody that hears it's like, oh my gosh, that's like true Texas honky tonk music.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, I think people want that.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I hear it all the time. Man, I wish people would do more 90s country back when it was good. And it's like, well, people are doing it. You just got to find it,
Yeah, that's the hard part. Again, that sea of individuals,
Yeah.
I get it that, man, the gatekeepers being good. There's some things that are really good about that. Everybody kind of has access now, but everybody has access now.
Yeah.
So it is, I don't remember the number. I heard something the other day, the label that was like 300 new songs either a week or a month coming out in Texas. Like, it's just tons.
Oh, I'm surprised it's not way
It's
more.
probably
than
300 a week is
That. Yeah,
probably
I would
what it
think
was.
so.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, you know how you like to, excuse me, how you like to give your buddy shit over like just whatever random thing. Oh man, you know. But there was a point where he sent over before it got released, he sent the music over to me, and I listened to it, and I'm just like, come on with it, man. I'm ready to pounce on you and give you hell, and I couldn't. I really couldn't. It stopped me in my tracks. I was like, but you did I hate to admit this, you did a great job.
Is this going to be recorded where I can hold it?
Hold it over my head for the rest of my life. But
we'll put it on loop, play it over.
And it's really not to kiss his ass because I don't do that, especially for him. So, but I was just really, really impressed at the diversity of the album. Like you're saying, there's a little bit of something for everybody in there. People that were raised with it, people that were raised with certain styles, and it kind of encompasses everything. And it's so refreshing to hear anybody do that and bring back some of those core things like you were talking about with that song. It's you don't hear that anymore. To hear it again, but done in a way that it translates, is fantastic.
There you go.
Thank you, Patrick.
You're welcome. Don't ever ask me to do that.
I know, exactly.
I get paid under the table.
Giving him $100 bill now.
Well, guys, I had a great conversation, and I think that we uncovered a little bit here that's important, not only for the music business, but what's going on specifically in Texas.
Yeah.
Again, I want to, if you could mention your website and the name of that album one more time. I want to make sure our listeners got that.
Yes, so it is Kerry Freeman, KerryFreeman. The title is It's Texas. It's on Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon, Pandora, YouTube, anywhere where you can stream music now. Okay. And my website is www.kerry-freeman.com. And then, of course, Instagram's Kerry Freeman Music. Facebook's the same, Kerry Freeman. I have my music page on Facebook as well. So you can find me all over. It's not hard to find me,
Okay, great. And he's going to play us a few tunes. So, guys, keep listening. What we're going to do is we're going to take a break, shut things down.
We'll move over to Studio 2, which is that
Studio
wall
2
right there.
And get him set up. And we're going to do that right now.
What happened in Houston? It didn't stay in Houston, 'cause I'm back in Nashville, thinking about you. Well, every star's a lone star, reminding me where you are. What in the world are we gonna do? Got a dog and I've got a cat. They'll get along or we'll send them back. What happened in Houston? It didn't stay in Houston. Now thinking about Houston is all I can do. Every star's a lone star, reminding me where you are. What in the world are we gonna do? I put on some straight, forget that other crap. You wear your boots and I'll wear my hat. What happened in Houston didn't stay in Houston. Now thinking about Houston is all I can do. And every star's a lone star, reminding me where you are. What in the world are we gonna do? Yeah, what in the world are we gonna do? All righty. So this is, are we rolling?
We're rolling.
So this is the title track. It's called It's Texas. I wrote it with my good friend and cousin, Russ Freeman. It's a front porch step covered in desert sand, burning breeze across the cold flat land. It's a dusty raindrops falling down from a hot spring storm. It's scrambled eggs and chicken fried. You better watch your mouth, boy, and go and play outside. I hope the preacher's quick today, 'cause the cowboys start at noon. Maybe you won't understand, it's more than just a piece of land. It's Texas, and it ain't just where I'm from. It's no less than the people that I love, bred into my heart and soul. I hope someday that I can go back to who I am and who I was. Well, it's Texas. It's a Main Street drag and nowhere to go. It's a two-step dance after the rodeo. It's 100 sleepy nowhere towns with one red light beside the Dairy Queen. It's wild and crazy, tough and mean, but warm and friendly in my dreams. It's Texas, and it ain't just where I'm from. It's no less than the people that I love. They're bred into my heart and soul. I hope someday that I can go back to who I am and who I was in Texas. And as I lay me down to sleep, I pray the Lord my soul to keep a little piece of ground for me, because, well, it's Texas, and it ain't just where I'm from. It's no less than all the people that I love. They're bred into my heart and soul. I hope someday that I can go back to who I am and what I'll be and who I was. It's Texas. Well, it's Texas. Sometimes you fly so high you can't find a place to land. You got money in the bank, a drink in your hand. When your love gets low, someone's gonna lose. 'Cause 'cause our love is drifting. And it's a good day for the blues. But when you shuffle your cards, you always have a winning hand. When your luck is on the run now, baby, you never have to take a stand. But when the chips get low, you know you're gonna have to choose. 'Cause our love is drifting, and it's a good day for the blues. Well, now it's a good day for Bobby Blue Bland, because the thrill is gone, baby. Magic Sam, whatever it takes, I will do what I can do to bridge this river that runs from me to you. And our love is drifting, and it's a good day for the blues. Whatever it takes, I will do what I can do to bridge this river that runs from me to you. But our love it is drifting, and it's a good day for the blues. Said our love is drifting now, and it's a good day for the blues. Yeah.
And now that we're back, just wanted to say again, guys, thanks. Appreciate you.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you for
look forward to
coming all
having
the way
y'all
down
come
here.
back in once that album makes gold.
Oh,
So, let me know.
Don't
Bring me a
forget us,
copy of
man.
it, too,
Don't
'cause I want to
forget
hang it
us.
up
if
here in
it
the
makes
studio.
gold, you'll hear about it. I'll announce it from the
From the rooftops.
Yeah.
She'll be out there.
But before we get into that, I want to say thank you guys. Honestly,
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
really good what y'all are doing. I love the setup. I watched a couple of the podcasts when I knew I was going to do it, and it's really important that y'all do what y'all are doing too. So,
Yes.
and thank y'all for having us.
Thank
Thank
you
y'all
very
for
much.
being accommodating and letting us come down here on Easter weekend. So,
Yeah, there you
Yeah.
can't say thank you enough.
There you go.
Absolutely.
All right,
Thank you
guys.
both.
Well, there it is. For Mark Hogan, I'm Hank Vatt. This is Hank's Think Tank, and we're out.